Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the SmackDown review. Yes, I know it's Thursday, and I know the reviews from other YouTubers are up who did SmackDown reviews, and this is going up late because I was working Tuesday. I DVR'd SmackDown, so I watched it today when I came back from work. And this SmackDown was at the Royal Farms Arena in Baltimore, Maryland. And this was SmackDown's go-home show for WrestleMania, which we are 3 days away from WrestleMania. And I gotta say, SmackDown's go-home show, I thought it was a solid show, in my opinion, to get, SmackDown has been doing really decently building up for WrestleMania. Monday Night Raw, on the other hand, their build up for WrestleMania has been really terrible. Has been really shit. So, but let's get on with the SmackDown review. So SmackDown opened up with the Kevin Owens show. Kevin Owens was in the ring. He introduced his guests, who were Randy Orton and AJ Styles. And Kevin Owens says to Randy Orton, last week everyone was looking forward to Kurt Angle's last match on SmackDown against Styles. And that, Orton did not let it happen. Yeah, which I was really disappointed that happened. We could have had a good match with Kurt Angle and AJ Styles, but Randy Orton coming in and just disqualifying the match, that was very disappointing. And he says to Orton, is he proud of what he did? Is Orton proud of what he did last week? Orton says he is, and that he saved the WWE Universe from seeing a washed-up, old, broken-down former Olympian beat a guy who thinks he is at the top of the game, which he was talking about AJ Styles. He also ends up saying that he saved the universe, the WWE Universe, from watching the match. And AJ Styles is like, really? And, this is coming from a guy who's been, he says to Orton, this is coming from a guy who's been in the company for almost 20 years, who was in the ring with legends and knows only one move. And so Orton says to Styles that when you got a move that is that deadly, you need one move. And that, Styles wouldn't get it. And Orton ends up saying that, when Styles was in the Indies, he was wrestling at WrestleMania almost for the past 2 decades, every year. And so Styles says, when he was in the Indies, Randy Orton was in the WWE, getting suspended for drug tests, and the crowd was like, oh, which, yeah, Randy Orton had his issues with the drug tests, back then. And so Randy Orton says to Styles, the truth is, if he was as good as he thinks, if Styles thinks he is, AJ Styles would have been in WWE a long time ago. And Randy Orton says to Styles what his legacy is, and he ends up telling Styles that John Cena has gone to Hollywood, and that AJ Styles assumed the role as corporate bitch, which that set off Styles. Kevin Owens then ended up retreating out of the ring because he knew that Styles and Orton we're going to have, a brawl. And that's basically what happened. Styles and Orton end up going at it. Styles end up going for the phenomenal forearm, But he then got RKO'd by Randy Orton. So it was a cool RKO from Orton to Styles. But all in all, it was a decent opening to SmackDown with the Kevin Owens show. Has a little hype for Orton and Styles' match Sunday. And then we had the first match, which was a 8-man tag team match. It was the Usos, Aleister Black and Ricochet versus Rusev, Nakamura, Shinsuke Nakamura, and The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus. And this was a decent match, decent 8-man tag team match. It was back and forth. The Usos, Black and Ricochet, they all did decent in the match. The Usos, Aleister Black and Ricochet ended up winning the match. The Usos ended up hitting a double super kick to Rusev. So Usos, Aleister Black and Ricochet ended up winning. Then you had after the match, surprise. Alexa Bliss ends up coming out. Yes, Alexa Bliss was at SmackDown, was on SmackDown on Tuesday. And she ends up announcing that Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky was released from jail and will still main event WrestleMania. Yeah, we all knew that. We all knew that Charlotte, Ronda, and Becky were going to be released from jail. I like how WWE tries to play this out, thinking that Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky, are still in jail. We're not that stupid. We know that they were released from jail, and they're still going to compete at WrestleMania. And she ends up saying Kofi Kingston will be challenging for the WWE Championship against Daniel Bryan. And she ends up saying that Kevin Owens, she says Kevin Owens thinks he is a better talk show host than her. Which she ends up saying, please. She ends up going on to say that SmackDown has lost its spirit of competition. So she ends up making an announcement. She ends up telling the Usos that at WrestleMania, they will be defending the SmackDown Tag Team Championships with the people they shared the ring with for the match that they just had. And it will be a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match. So that means it's going to be the Usos versus Aleister Black, Ricochet, Rusev, Nakamura, Cesaro, and Sheamus. So that's what it's going to be at WrestleMania. Fatal 4-Way match for SmackDown Tag Team Championships. All in all, the Usos, Aleister Black and Ricochet, Rusev, Nakamura, and The Bar, 8-man tag team match. It was a decent match. Then we had the Iconics, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. They were in the ring. Billie says to Peyton, what's great is the state of the SmackDown tag team at WrestleMania. So Peyton Royce ends up saying, it's dramatic because the Usos have to defend their titles in a Fatal 4-Way. And Billie Kay ends up saying they have a Fatal 4-Way at WrestleMania for the Women's Tag Team Championships. And they end up talking about how they compete all the various other women that are in the match. From Natalya, Beth Phoenix, Nia Jax, Tamina, Sasha, Bayley. And they end up saying, Peyton ends up saying that this Sunday, her and Billie Kay will win the Women's Tag Team titles and make WrestleMania iconic. Well, I'm sorry to say, the Women's Tag Team titles, they're still going to be on Sasha and Bayley. Sasha and Bayley, without a doubt, in my opinion, is still going to walk out of WrestleMania as the Women's Tag Team Champions. So, all in all, it was just a meh segment from the Iconics. Then we had The Miz and Sanity. They had a match. Before the match got underway, The Miz ended up coming out. He was on the mic, and he ends up saying, WrestleMania means different things to different people. He ends up saying, for the woman in the main event, it means making history, which he was referring to Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda. He ends up saying, for Kofi Kingston, it means finally breaking through, and for him, it means retribution. And The Miz ends up saying recently he's been able to take stock in who he is. And that's why he knows he stands here as the best version of himself, because he has an incredible family. And he ended up plugging, the premiere of Miz and Mrs., which aired after SmackDown, which I did watch. I DVR'd that. Really enjoyed seeing Miz and Mrs. back. And that episode was taking place during a SummerSlam weekend, which I saw a couple of my friends when they were at the hotel. If you watch Miz and Mrs. in the episode, you saw the SummerSlam weekend, the hotel that they were staying at. I saw some of my friends there in the scene. And he ends up saying, he's proud. It's just something he's proud of. And that he fights with a full heart, more motivated than ever before in his entire career. And he says that's why he made his match at WrestleMania against Shane McMahon a false count anywhere, because he can't be contained in the ring. He ends up saying that he'll beat Shane McMahon anywhere and everywhere. So Miz ends up saying that he used to fight for his father's approval, but after what Shane did to, his dad, he now fights for his honor. And he's like, oh, Shane has a dad, so he guesses that makes him a son of a bitch. Which was funny, though, when that was said. And so Sandy ended up coming out. Finally, Sandy is in a match on SmackDown. When was the last time we saw Sandy have a match on SmackDown? I can't even remember. So Sandy ended up coming out. And then Shane McMahon ended up coming out. Shane ended up saying that he just wanted to come out here and see this one up close and personal. And of course, he demanded, SmackDown ring announcer Greg Hamilton to give him a special introduction. And pretty much that was basically it. And the match got underway. And so it was The Miz versus Sandy. This was a handicap match. But then Shane McMahon ended up coming back out. And he ends up saying he forgot one more thing. Well, he ended up saying that he got two things, actually. One, just like him and The Miz's match at WrestleMania, this match now is falls count anywhere. And, after Shane then announced that, he put up on the Titantron the picture of him grabbing Miz's dad. And he ended up calling Miz's dad, Mr. Potato Face. And so it went from a handicap match to a false count anywhere handicap match. And The Miz just, went backstage. He was taking down, Sanity. I think he ended up taking down Eric Young, which he ended up pinning Eric Young backstage on cases. So The Miz ended up winning the match. And then right from there, we saw Shane was in the car. And he ends up pulling out of the arena. And he ends up smiling at The Miz. He had a smile on his face. And so Shane just ended up taking off. So that was that. So The Miz versus Sanity false count anywhere handicap match. You know, it was okay. Then we had Corey Graves. He was in the ring, and he introduces Becky Lynch. So Becky Lynch ends up coming out. The crowd popped for Becky, of course, and after the Miz and Sandy match was over, before after Shane drove off, a police car came, and Becky ended up coming out of the police car, and so that's when she made her way into the arena. Crowd was chanting Becky, Becky. So Becky ends up getting in the ring, and she ends up getting out. She ends up standing on the announce table and ends up saying that it's good to be out free in Baltimore. She then says, no disrespect. She then says to Corey Graves, no disrespect. She doesn't answer to him. She answers to the people. And she mentions to one fan that was sitting in the floor seat, saying that, oh, that mugshot shirt of hers aged well. Which that was funny. Yes, there is a mugshot shirt of Becky on WWE Shop. And she ends up saying, she was thinking in the back of the cop car, what a difference a year makes. She ends up saying this time last year, her and Charlotte were the best of friends. And Ronda Rousey was about to make her debut. And she said, it was like the stars were aligned to get Charlotte and Ronda into the main event of this year's WrestleMania. That is, until she smacked the smugness off of Charlotte's face at SummerSlam and changed everything. She goes on to say that she was determined at that point to do whatever it took to get into this year's WrestleMania. She goes, look at us now. 80,000 people coming to WrestleMania for them. For the Queen and the baddest woman on the planet, and also the man. And she says their evolution, the real revolution that started at SummerSlam, is going to explode this Sunday when the winner takes all. And she ends up saying she's going to make one of them dopes tap. She says the next time she sees us, she's going to be the champ. And she knows, and she's always was the double champ. And that's how the segment ended. But really enjoyable segment with Becky Lynch. We all know that Becky is going to be walking out as the champion at WrestleMania. She's going to be winning that main event. That's my prediction, though. Which later, I think the next video I'll do is my WrestleMania 35 predictions, which I did one for 33 and last year for 34. So why not do another WrestleMania predictions video for WrestleMania 35? So that'll be after you all see this video. That'll be the next video. And so then we had a mixed tag team match, which ended in a no contest. It was Asuka, Carmella, R-Truth, the Hardy Boys, Heavy Machinery, Naomi and Nikki Cross versus Andrade, Cien, Almas, Zelina, Vega, EC3. Yes, EC3 was in this match. His next match after the match that he had with Dean Ambrose, or two matches that he had with Dean Ambrose on Raw. So EC3, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Lana, Shelton Benjamin, Gallows and Anderson. Match really went nowhere. So it went to a no contest. It was a mess. It was a mess in my opinion. Sorry about that, but I was saying, the whole mixed tag team match, it was just a mess. So, but then the next match, it was Samoa Joe versus Mustafa Ali. It was a short match. Samoa Joe ended up getting the win. Coquina clutch on Mustafa Ali. So it was a short match. And then we had Michael Cole. He was in the ring for the contract signing between Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston. Daniel Bryan ended up coming out, and then Kofi ended up making his way out with Xavier and Big E. And Daniel Bryan says he knows Kofi is going to sign this contract, and they're going to wrestle at WrestleMania. And he says he's not here to stop him from signing. He's here to educate the masses, as he has all along. And the crowd was just chanting, for Kofi. They were chanting Kofi Mania. They were holding up Kofi Mania signs. So Kofi got a big pop from the crowd. And so Daniel Bryan says he's got a very important life lesson to teach Baltimore, who he calls so ignorant. And he says the lesson is, do not be complacent. Don't be complacent the way Kofi Kingston has. And he's like, don't think good is good enough for 11 years, and do not be complacent. And Daniel Bryan's like, oh, I have another lesson. And that lesson is, don't be a bystander in your own lives. Daniel Bryan ends up saying Kofi's been a bystander, sitting on the sidelines and waiting for others to push him to the top, like Kofi has. Watching and hoping, while Xavier and Big E end up pushing him. And so Daniel Bryan gets agitated before calming down, and he's like, oh, I got one more lesson, and that is, don't mistake a fad for reality. He says he's been in Kofi's shoes. The way they chanted yes for him is the same way they chant Kofi for him. And he's like, he knows how he feels. He goes on to say he knows it reverberates through his body, through Kofi's body, and feels like, this love makes him stronger. But the reality is, he doesn't feed off them. They feed off of him. And Daniel Bryan says, because we are parasites. Because, once we're done sucking all the positivity out of him, they'll discard him. And we heard asshole chants during this. And Bryan says that's what the crowd says to all the great truth tellers. He then goes on to address Kofi again and says that he better suck it in, because this is going to be the best it's ever going to be. And Kofi has, had enough of what Daniel Bryan has to say. So Kofi ends up getting up. He ends up telling Daniel Bryan to sit down and shut his mouth, while he educates Daniel Bryan. And he says Bryan claims to know what he's feeling. And Kofi says the more he hears Daniel Bryan talk, the more he knows Daniel Bryan doesn't know a damn thing about him. He says he became world heavyweight champion within his first 2 years, and he watched that, not as a bystander, but to observe and understand. And he says Daniel Bryan hasn't been through what he's been through. He ends up saying, 11 years, no single title matches. And he says that's okay, because it all led to this moment. He goes on to say he sees it in Daniel Bryan's eyes, how he trembles and plays mind games. And he says the one thing they have in common is that he knows what all this feels like. And he's scared as hell, because he knows what's coming next. And then we see Kofi ends up signing the contract. Michael Cole ends up taking the contract, gets out of the ring, and SmackDown ends with Kofi staring Daniel Bryan down. And that's how SmackDown ended. So, but it was a decent contract signing between Kofi and Daniel Bryan. Really looking forward to the match on Sunday, and we all know that Kofi Kingston is going to win the title at WrestleMania. But anyways, that's it for my SmackDown review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review and video. And no, I said my WrestleMania 35 predictions will be the next video, which I'll put up a few hours after this video, and then it will be my my WrestleMania Access video, which yes, I am going to Access tomorrow. Have the afternoon session from 1 to 5. So it's my first time going to Access, and can't wait to get into the madness over there. I know Access started today at like 6 o'clock. So I'm really looking forward to Access. So yeah, so anyways, thank you all for watching this video, and be sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all back here for the WrestleMania 35, my WrestleMania 35 predictions.